You are listening to the Nightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Happy New Year, our first show of 2022. Great to be back with you once again after a holiday break. Coming up, we'll do a check-in on East Carolina basketball. Bubba Rosenbaum of the Sports Objective podcast will be here to talk about that, and we'll get some final thoughts from him on their past football season as well. Speaking of football, since we were with you last after that long break, Cincinnati's trip to the CFP ended with a loss to Alabama in the semifinals as the Crimson Tide won 27-6. The Bearcats' defense did all they could for as long as they could, but Bama's depth and size in the trench is too much, and their running game overpowered them as the game wore on, and the Cincinnati offense could not get on track and not able to fortify the efforts of the defense. Personally, I was surprised Desmond Ridder, they did not use his legs more to try to get things opened up for their running game and their passing game. But nonetheless, a great season for the Bearcats as they become the first G5 to make it to the college football playoff, and they acquitted themselves quite well. Thank you very much. All right, we'll check in with Bubba Rosenbaum on ECU basketball. That's next, where the AAC Report continues after this.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Nightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
Our pleasure once again to welcome Bubba Rosenbaum from the Sports Objective podcast, one of the cast of many from that particular show. He joins us now to talk some East Carolina basketball as the Pirates have achieved a 10-5 mark on the season, 1-2 in conference, couple of tough losses of late. For East Carolina, losing to Cincinnati and Temple, but they have given Tulane their only conference loss of the season. Bubba, so give us your take on an assessment on the season so far.
Well, first of all, Jeff, I appreciate you having me back on the show. Always enjoy talking East Carolina athletics as well as just the AAC with you. But, you take a look at Joe Dooley's ball club, and this is Coach Dooley's fourth season of his second stint at East Carolina. Obviously, he was there for 4 years back in the 90s. But prior to this season, you had the loss of Jaden Gardner. He made the decision to transfer out to UVA. And you had a roster overhaul for the second time in his 4 seasons back in Greenville. And so when you take a look at it, it was a little bit different than the first time around. The first time around, after year one, when such a roster overhaul was executed, it was an even more of a talent upgrade situation. This time, you had some decent talent in the program. You had guys returning like Tristan Newton, who's had an excellent season, which I'll touch on more in a moment, but also J.J. Miles, Brandon Suggs, Tremont Robinson-White, etc. So you had, I think, 4 out of your top 5 or 5 out of your top 6 scorers returning outside of Jaden Gardner. So there was something to build on, which surprised me a little bit when East Carolina was picked 11th in the AAC in the preseason standings. But on the other hand, when you lose a guy the caliber of Jaden Gardner, it didn't surprise me either. But coming in, you had Vance Jackson. Vance is a much-traveled young man, but very talented. He had been at Connecticut, of all places, to start his career, was an All-AAC rookie team selection. Then he had been to New Mexico, Arkansas, and now back to the American in East Carolina. So Vance has been a pretty solid performer. He's improved as the year has gone on, and the way he's gotten used to Coach Dooley and the staff system, and, just used to playing with his new teammates. But last night against Cincinnati, Vance put up 35 points, which was one of the best performances single game point-wise in East Carolina history. So in addition to Vance, and a lot of new pieces, I think there were maybe 7 or 8 in total. But just the team as a whole, you mentioned that 10-5 record overall, 1-2 in the AAC. Jeff, all 15 games have been competitive. The Pirates' 5 losses, each one of those 5 losses has been a 2-possession game or less inside of the final 4 minutes of the contest. And 3 of those 5 losses came down to the final minute, losses against the likes of Oklahoma and Davidson. So very competitive. Now the biggest thing is just trying to figure out a way to play a little more consistently and do the things that are necessary to win against the better teams on your schedule. And speaking of better teams on the schedule, the Pirates are in a stretch right now, just lost at Cincinnati and by 8, I guess it was last night. And then you have Memphis on Saturday, UCF coming in. The Knights, as you know, have been playing very good basketball at Houston, at Memphis, and then Cincinnati. So what a 6-game stretch the Pirates are currently in the midst of.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a great litmus test of what kind of team this is going to be. I mean, they have shown the competitiveness, as you have said. So, if they can manage to secure some victories in that stretch, that certainly would bode well for them.
Oh, no doubt. That's the thing. That's the next step for this program, much like it was. I know we'll talk football here in a few minutes, but from Mike Houston's team this year, the early part of the season, there were some very close, frustrating losses, and it's been much the same in basketball. And it's no secret that East Carolina basketball has largely struggled throughout its history, and that's really being pretty nice about it. The Pirates have only finished above 500 in conference play twice in 40 years, and in both of those seasons was just 9-7. So that just gives you an idea. That certainly doesn't make Coach Dooley and his staff set the bar any lower, but as a fan, you have to have some perspective of the magnitude of what Coach Dooley and his staff are trying to do, and have more patience with them than you would at some programs.
And is the fan base patient, or are they kind of on pins and needles regarding Coach Dooley?
I think a lot are, and then there's also that faction that, of course, is not. And it's year 4 of his 5-year deal. So the way the Pirates play out this final half of the season, if they can continue the track they're on right now and find a way to win some of these games, I think unless the wheels just totally come off the second half of the season, I think the Pirates, in my opinion, would be, John Gilbert and company would be foolish not to extend him. Maybe not a pay raise or not a substantial pay raise, but tack another year, maybe 2 onto that contract. So Coach Dooley really has a fighting chance on the recruiting trail, because I think you've seen the improvement. Now, you just need to see some more wins against the quality competition on the schedule.
And I know when we had spoke some time ago about Jaden Gardner deciding to transfer out, and you told me at the time, they got a lot of athletes coming in, and you certainly hit that one on the head, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. I mentioned Vance Jackson and the year he's had thus far. You take a look at a guy like Brandon Johnson, and Brandon was added very late in the process. And the great news about Brandon is that even though he was a JUCO product, with him being a JUCO product in the COVID era, he not only, in a normal situation, he would have had 3 years. Now he has all 4 years left because last year in the JUCO ranks did not count. And he's a guy that has averaged, 8-9 points, has had probably at least 3 or 4 double-doubles just off the top of my head that I remember. And there was one game and maybe a couple games where he had between 15 and 20 rebounds. So he's been a very nice surprise. And then you have other quality pieces that came in. A guy like Russell Felton goes by RJ. RJ is out of Aiken, South Carolina, and he's a very well-developed guard. He almost looks like more like a football player, but he's a freshman, has a lot of upside. Last night, RJ, there he is, I guess 6'2", 6'3", somewhere in that neighborhood, and he blocked a shot of a 7-footer up there at Cincinnati.
Nice. Well, I'll tell you what, as you mentioned, it is a daunting schedule ahead, but like I said, they have kept games close, and they're not an easy win on the schedule for any of the opposition. So they should not take the night off.
No, that's one thing you've seen not only with East Carolina's games and the other teams around this league. And you look at it, Tulane, what a job Ron Hunter's doing. That ball club, their only loss in league play is to East Carolina in that overtime decision in Minji's here within the last week or so. And last night they went on the road and won at Wichita State. They had already won at Cincinnati. And then you have you've seen competitive games between Tulsa and Memphis. I mean, just up and down throughout this league, and you never know what's going to happen from one night to the next.
Yeah, no question about that. We've seen that with UCF as well as that is concerned. So let's get a final post-mortem thought on the college football season. And the Pirates did become bowl eligible, but unfortunately the bowl game was canceled due to Boston College, and it seemed to be that they were being called out for maybe some shenanigans for bailing out on this bowl game on the COVID protocols.
Yeah, you'd love to know what the truth is as far as how many BC players truly had COVID, and how much it was due to the diminished roster, and they did say that it was a combination of COVID, opt-outs, injuries, transfer portal, pretty much everything that would cause a roster to be diminished. But it would be very interesting to truly know how many were COVID and whether it was more of the opting out and entering the transfer portal and those other reasons. But, needless to say, a lot of Pirate Nation took to social media and they were calling out Boston College, and there's a lot of back and forth between the two fan bases. But it's a shame that game was not able to be played for a number of reasons. One, like you mentioned, is the first bowl game for East Carolina's program since 2014, that next to last year of the Ruff and McNeil era. But then you look at it, there's still so much to build on. The Pirates went 7-5, first winning season since 2014. And then even though the bowl game itself did not happen, the players that are returning, the majority of the roster is returning. And you take a look at it, they had a chance to get those bowl practices in. They had the opportunity to go to the bowl sites and go through some of the the bowl events, and that experience is something that certainly can't be undervalued and not appreciated when it comes to what will hopefully be taking place in the years to come.
Yeah, and I guess the other news being that Holt Naylor's going to be back again.
Yeah, Holton made that decision. He announced that back a little bit before the bowl game was scheduled to be played. I guess a little before Christmas, Holton announced that he would, in fact, be returning for his final season, a year that he received, as many players around the country did, as a result of COVID. And so that is the good news. However, here in recent last 5 to 7 days, word has broken that the Pirates will be losing really their biggest playmaker, biggest skill guy on each side of the ball. And I say that offensively, you of course had Keaton Mitchell, and Keaton Mitchell will be back. But at wide receiver, you're losing Tyler Snead, more than 200 receptions in his East Carolina career. Such a valuable connection and target for Holton Ahlers in those third and fourth down situations to move the chains. And so you're certainly going to miss him, and his production is going to have to be replaced. And then on the defensive side, second-team All-American cornerback Jaquan McMillan made the decision to enter the draft. And those, I think, were a little surprising to the staff. They may not have been totally caught off guard, but they put the feelers out there. Did the things trying to get the best feedback they could get from the NFL sources. And I think they thought, even though they'll certainly support Snead and McMillan moving forward, that goes without saying, they were hopeful that they would return for the 2022. And you look at it, Jeff, Tyler Snead, he had, graduated back in the spring, if not before that. And Tyler Snead, he had played in 2018, even though he redshirted in the final year of Scotty Montgomery. And then he had played 3 seasons for Coach Houston. So under normal circumstances, he still would have just been completing his redshirt junior season. And then Jaquan McMillan, he had a couple more years, but is opting to go ahead and enter the draft, which is a big blow to Blake Carroll on the defensive side of the ball. And, moving into 2022, the Pirates, I mentioned the need at receiver with the departure of Snead, and that was really a need anyway. But with Tyler Snead's departure, that's even more glaring. And then on the offensive line, the Pirates allowed 37 sacks this year. So even though they were able to win 7 games and, were really on the verge of winning 9 or 10 games, you had Holton Ahlers getting far too much pressure. And I think really offensively on Donnie Kirkpatrick, even though he received some, what in my opinion, for the most part was undue heat. And, some of that's to be expected. But I think he and the staff did a pretty good job of maximizing what they had to work with from an offensive line standpoint. And defensively, Blake Carroll and that staff, what a tremendous job they did. The Pirates allowed something like 34 or 35 points per game in 2020 in those 9 contests, but this season allowed just 26 points per game, which I think was the best numbers put up by a Pirate defensive unit since 2014.
Yeah, outstanding stuff there. And of course, I knew when they hired Mike Houston that this was the trajectory that they would take. And that certainly is bearing to be the truth for sure. Well, Bubba, as always, we always appreciate having you on. Please plug the Source Objective and what you guys got coming up. I believe you guys are doing a show tonight, right?
Absolutely. As we're recording this on Thursday night, about an hour from now, a little less than an hour, we will be talking to the longtime voice of the Pirates, Jeff Charles. He's been in Greenville for more than 3 decades. I think his first year behind the mic was either 1987 or 1988. So we'll take a look at the current state of the East Carolina athletics program, in addition to taking a trip down memory lane, I'm sure, since this is the first time we've had Jeff on in quite some time. And then in addition to that, we always have your weekly preview and also recap shows for basketball. And then also baseball is just around the corner, and we'll have extra innings. East Carolina in baseball is projected to be in the top 15 or 20, as high as 8th in one poll in the collegiate baseball poll. But you can follow us on Twitter at TheSportsOBJ. We're also at TheSportsOBJ on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram at The Sports Objective. And then you can find us on Facebook, like and follow us there. And then also subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Man, you guys are on TikTok. You guys are just doing everything.
Yeah, that was just added here in the last 2 or 3 months. I figured, why not?
Outstanding. We'll have to look for your activity over there for sure. All right, Bubba, as always, thanks so much, and you have yourself a great evening.
All right. Thanks so much, Jeff.
And we're back with final news and notes after this.
If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Nightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Continuing now with news from basketball, the players of the week in men's hoops. Josh Carlton of the Houston Cougars, in a pair of wins last week, averaged 26 points and 11.5 rebounds, as he had 30 and 11 against South Florida, and against Wichita State, 22, 12 boards, and 4 blocks. Damian Dunn was the co-player of the week. The Temple guard, on the Wednesday road victory, UCF scored 16 points, including a three-pointer with 7 seconds left to give the Owls the lead, and added some game-clinching free throws. And against East Carolina, he had a career-high 33, including the buzzer-beating three-pointer to win that contest. The freshman of the week, Jaleel White of the Owls, he averaged 13 points, 5.5 rebounds in those victories last week. In the standings, the 11th-ranked Cougars are 14-2, 3-0, leading the conference. Tulane is 4-1, 7-7 overall. SMU 3-1, 12-4 overall. Temple and Memphis at 3-2. The Owls 10-6 overall. The Tigers 9-6 overall. Turning to women's hoops, Layla Blair of Houston is the player of the week, as they had a 2-0 week to open conference play. Averaged 17 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. And the freshman of the week, Delaney Crawford of Tulsa, averaged 10 points and 3.5 rebounds per game, as the Golden Hurricane got off to a 1-1 start. In the women's basketball standings, UCF leading the way at 3-0, 11-2 overall. 24th ranked South Florida is 2-0, 12-4 overall. SMU also undefeated at 2-0, 8-6 overall. Temple 1-0, 6-6 overall. Tulsa and Houston at 2-1, with the Golden Hurricane 12-2 overall, and Houston at 9-6. And after doubling as both the regular season and tournament champion in the AAC in softball last year, Wichita State has been selected as the favorite for the 2022 title in the preseason coaches poll. Wichita State claimed 4 first-place votes and earned 33 voting points in the preseason rankings, as voted on by the conference's 7 head coaches. The Shockers won their first ever American softball championships a season ago, with the conference tournament title as the top seed, following a 7-4 win over UCF in Tulsa back in May. And Wichita State reached the regional final of the 2021 Norman Regional, closing the season with a 41-13-1 record. South Florida checked in second in the preseason poll, 31 points, and won first-place vote as they finished the 2021 campaign as the runner-up with a 16-7 conference record. They were 31-19 overall. They reached the regional final of the Gainesville Regional, and UCF, they claimed the final 2 first-place votes in the preseason rankings. They are third with 29 points. The Knights finished third in conference last year, 16-7-1, and they capped the year in the regional final with a 41-19-1 record for the year as they fell to Florida State. And Houston, they were fourth in the rankings, 19 voting points, followed by 3-time American Tournament champion Tulsa with 18 points. Memphis and East Carolina rounded out the preseason poll in 6th and 7th place, respectively. Respectively, I should say. Tongue is a little tied today. And that will do it for this week's edition of the AAC Reports. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffAllen_88 and follow the Nightline Sports Network at UCF_Nightline. As I untie the tongue, we say thanks for joining us.